I hope. Yeah. So in the last class, we discussed about test classes. So we are using these test classes. Also, we also tried basic triggers also. Okay. So we are using triggers to enhance, means if there's a requirement which cannot be done with validation rules or workflow field updates or anything. Okay, you can use these triggers. Okay, if the requirement can be done with button click things, it's fine. You don't go to the coding, you directly go with button clicks. That's the best practice, because so it reduces the developer's time, because when you are trying to choose the developing option, it takes obviously some time. Then configuration. Okay, so people recommend using configuration. If that cannot be done with that, oh, so you can't hear me? Okay, because it's okay. I'm checking the audio because it's working fine. Because when I'm speaking, it's showing the talking properly. So if you have problem with the audio connection, just click on audio. So I'm using telephone here. You can even join via telephone by dialing a number that is 267-507, and you have different access code for that. And we have the access pin also. You can use that to listen to this class on phone, and you can use the computer for your laptop for seeing the screen. Okay, that's the best option. Srikant, can you try it? I think you can't listen. Can you try joining the class? Yeah, I'm just messaging it. Okay. So Sandhya, can you hear me? The other people are listening to me.
Yeah,
Can you guys
I
hear
can hear
me?
you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
informing.
yeah,
They
I'm just
can't hear you.
messaging him. Okay.
Oh, okay, fine.
So you can. So click on this option. Use telephone. Okay. In your audio. Okay. Anyway, you don't understand. Okay. Audio. Use telephone. Dial. Yeah. Yeah. I think he's trying to join in separate. Okay. Can you hear me now, Srikant?
Yeah, good.
Cool. Okay. So I think there's some problem with your laptop audio or something. So you can do the same thing. In the same call, you can select the telephone option, and you can
Okay.
even dial the things. Okay. So it will be more clear also. Sometimes when you're traveling, you can even use the same thing without
Okay.
even screen share also. You can listen to this.
Okay.
Cool. Do you have any questions on? Uh, coding part or any on test coverage thing, any issues with test coverage, you can speak out. So this class is completely for Q&A. If you are not asking any questions, I can move on to the next topic. So we are generally using test classes. So to get the proper code coverage above 75%, to deploy our code to other organizations, means other instances, from developer sandbox to QA sandbox, or from there to release sandbox, and from there to main production instance. So yeah, again, I will talk about these sandboxes and instances today. I think most people have asked this question in the resume explanation class. Okay. So we are going to use sandboxes to develop code, because so for suppose if AT&T is buying Salesforce instance from Salesforce instance from Salesforce, so they are going to use the application, the sales, marketing, call center application, which is given by Salesforce. That's the production instance. There is a lot of data in their production organization. So you cannot directly code in that. You cannot directly write a class or trigger. It won't allow you to create classes and things directly on the production instance, because many users in the real time they are accessing your organization. If you have done if you have created some bad trigger, it can create bad data in your system. If you are writing some simple bad logic in your Apex also, it can throw a lot of exceptions, a lot of errors to the running customers. That's the reason you generally don't touch production. They won't give access to you. You generally have a developer sandbox, the copy of the configuration of that, the complete, if there is 40 objects, custom objects, the same thing is in your developer sandbox also. They are going to be created from the production instance. In the production instance, there is an option called sandboxes. If you click on sandboxes, you can create sandbox from that only. Okay, create developer sandbox, you can name that. So there is a naming thing also. When you are creating it, you can name it. So for developers, you use developer sandbox, and again you create the same thing, but you name it as QA sandbox to test the things what you have developed there and deploy to the QA sandbox, and you test in this new organization. So the testers will be using this organization by creating some sample data. So the flow, the architecture of these deployments will be designed by your project manager or technical architect in the system in your project, because if that is a really big project, you have a lot of sandboxes, you deploy things, you create different modules in different developer organizations. Okay, so I worked in some project where there are 3 developer sandboxes, 3 QA sandbox, okay, and there is 1 integration sandbox where all the 3 modules developed by 3 teams will be generally sent to, first of all, QA, independent QA organizations. If that is working fine, again they will be sending it to integration sandbox where all the 3 modules are integrated. They will test it one more time. If that is working good, all the combined modules are working good, then they finally deploy to full copy sandbox, which is a real-time data instance, but it's again the sample organization, means sandbox only, which is not available for the users. Generally, the full copy sandbox is generally have data of the production, but it's little old data, like last 6 months data. So if there are 5 million records in your instance before 6 months, that data will be available in your full copy sandbox. Okay, Okay, I will talk about this after finishing this. Yeah, so you can refresh the full copy sandbox whenever you want. If you click on refresh, the latest data in your production will be added to your full copy sandbox, and you can test the applications what you have developed in developer sandboxes, and you can migrate that thing to full copy sandbox before deploying if that is really working fine with the big data, with the large data of your customers' data. If everything goes good, then you can deploy to the production instance in the weekends time, like in the weekend morning. So people will work on this on the weekends, because on the weekends most users don't use the application. Again, when you are deploying, you will be intimating to the user saying that we are deploying things on this weekend, Sunday or Saturday, 10 p.m. So don't use the system on that time. Okay. So if the deployment went bad, if the things were not working fine, you can roll back the changes, and you can do the things. You can work on the background with the full copy sandbox, the changes. Again, you do the things again on the next week or next week, whenever you completed the things. So that's how it works in the real-time project. Okay. So if it is a small project, you'll be having two sandboxes only. Two sandbox. One is developer sandbox. Directly you generally deploy to full copy sandbox to test it, and directly you deploy to production. If it is a very big project, it depends. Customer have to buy additional sandboxes based on their requirement. Okay, as I said, the project which I worked on is having around 7 or sandboxes. Okay, developer 1, developer 2, developer 3. 3 teams are working on these modules, and QA1, QA2, QA3 for each and every independent teams testing. And after that, if everything goes good in QA1, QA2, QA3, they're going to merge with, they're going to deploy all things with integration sandbox, where all the modules are kept in the same edition. Okay. And if that is really working good, the integration, then we'll be moving down to the full copy sandbox, which is having good data. That's how it worked. Okay. And I got a question from, so this is how sandboxes logins will be generally use the endpoint as test.salesforce.com. The production login is login.salesforce.com. Okay. So when I'm trying to get the data of sandbox in Eclipse, also you have to use. For sandbox, there is a separate option. What environment are you using? Click on sandbox. For development environment, you have to click on. Sorry, for developer sandbox, all sandboxes will be having test.salesforce.com login. Some companies have taken some custom URLs. In that case, you have to put down that custom URL. Okay. If custom, you have to specify in your sand things. Okay. So again, all the customers will be using login.salesforce.com. Means that's the production instance endpoint to login. Same thing we use in Eclipse or QS. Okay, and yeah, that's about the deployment things. Okay, and how we can understand when to use triggers. I mean, how can we figure out that we can't do this assignment task with button clicks? Yeah, so means, yeah, it generally comes with experience. But suppose if you're means you generally get a lot of requirements on each object wise in a spreadsheet or even in a tool, or sometimes they put down in a tool. So in terms of they keep small stories in, and based on the requirement, if asking you to validate the data what you are entering on account object, if it is So like it depends. For suppose, if they say that if they are selecting quickest value as industry, industry quickest value as some pharma, okay, and the subtype I cannot select the other fields. That type of simple automation, it can be done with field dependencies and stuff. You can even do with validation rules also, very basic things. Okay? But if they ask to validate the account object records, before saving the account object records, you have to check some third-party object. You have to validate the data, and by validating the data only, you have to save the record. If that requirements are there, then you have to go with triggers only. So in terms of the simple thing is, you can with workflow rules you cannot create new records in other object. Got it? But with triggers you can do it. With validation rules also you cannot create new records in other object when you are creating this object. These things can only be done with triggers, right? And some more things, if the some validation rules which needs to be validated based on other object records also cannot be done with the validation rules. First of all, you try with validation rules. If that cannot be done, so you try creating. So first of all, you put in paper saying that let's try with validation. Means you can try coding with your trigger. If that is really working fine with a simple code, yeah, you create it. There's no issues. Okay. First of all, the customer needs the work to be done, right? So sometimes some tasks cannot be done with, obviously, with validation rules. So if customer is saying, if I'm creating an inquiry record, I need to create the lead record also. Simply go to triggers and create the trigger for that, because you cannot create other object records with validation rules or workflow rules. That's, you know that. And again, coming down to field updates, if your customer saying that if this operation, if the record is getting updated like this, I need a field update. Think like first of all you try with your basic workflow rule by putting down the filter criteria. When the record is rated or updated, so in the workflow criteria, if you need to trigger a workflow rule, you have to put some entry criteria, right? You can put the basic criteria, and you can do only very basic field update with the quickest value change or with the setting some value to the text value like this, right? But if you want some advanced thing like you need to do the field update based on the existing values in the system. For suppose you need to calculate the existing all the account object records and save the new record, then you can't do this with the basic field update also, because the field update generally take care about the current record only. If the current record field means if the filter criteria is true on the current record, yeah, simply assign this thing to this quickest value. That's how you can do it. I can show the things to you. Give me a second. Just now I was working on workflow rule. The workflow rules and field updates will generally work on independent record. It won't work on other records also. The validation rule also will generally work on the current record, the current object record. But the triggers, right? In triggers, you can write any type of thing. You can check the old records of the same object, or you can even use the other object data also to validate this current record. So what's happening when you are trying to save a record on the contact object? So when I'm putting some data on this, and I'm clicking on save, if there is a validation rule saying that the phone number should not be null, it's checking the same record. Okay. So if you are using the option called unique option, it checks all the records in the system, but only the phone field. Okay. Got it. So, but if you have a requirement like this, means simply checking the same record values if the phone field is blank. Sorry, if the phone field and phone field, home phone field, mobile phone field is blank, have to throw error on the same record. Then I can use validation rule. Okay, because if the requirement of the customer is on the contact object, I need at least one phone number among these. In this case, I cannot use the required option only on a phone field. So customer can give this phone field or home phone or mobile in any of the value. So these three fields are not required, but any one of these is required. In this case, I can use validation rule. But if the customer is entering data into a phone number field into any of these fields, if I want to make this unique in all the contact records, in all the fields, in all the three fields, then I have to use trigger. See, for suppose, if I am making this phone field as unique, if there is one more contact who is using who is entering the same phone number in home phone field, I can save the record. The data will be saved. It won't be restricted, right? If you are entering the same phone field on the phone field only, it won't be saved. The second record won't be saved. It will be throwing some error. What happens if the user is entering okay, this data? Okay, so in this record I am entering this data. In the second record I am entering the same phone number in this record also. In this case, I have to use triggers to validate whether the phone number is used by some other guy in any of the in any one of these fields. Okay, type of requirement. So you have to again think. So by working on Salesforce for like at least 1 year, right? You can understand when to create which, all this stuff. So I can't fix exact requirements how to tell you. Okay, but this is one of the example on the contact object. Coming down to the field updates also. So if you want to update a field based on the current record, yes, if the value is this none, if I'm sending email, after sending email I can select emailed. But if I want to change this field based on some other object values or old object, old contact records in the same from the same object, then I have to use triggers to query the old object records and I can query the specific record based on some filter criteria on. After that, I will compare whether this field is matching it or not. Otherwise, I can save it. If it is matching, I'll throw some error saying it's a duplicate field. So yeah. So if possible, if I have some requirement documents like this, I can share it with you so you can understand how people are asking, right? I will check it out. Okay. I might be having some document from one of my customers, the requirement document. I don't remember the exact requirements. So in one project we have done mostly with configuration. Okay, all the things are really basic. If we are feeling that it's taking more formula field in validation rule, we move that thing. After creating validation rule also, we move that thing to completely to trigger. It works in validation rule, I know that, but it's becoming more and more complex, and the number of lines is reaching the limit of validation rule formula. That's the reason we moved that to trigger part. Trigger, we can directly take less number of lines. It's okay, even though if it is taking more number of lines, app means Salesforce won't block you to create the trigger also. Got it? And coming down to the test classes, things you need to remember is, first of all, you have to analyze what's happening on that particular class, why we are using this page, what are we passing to that class. Based on that, you can analyze it. In tomorrow's requirement, what we are trying to do is, there are some contact records in our system. We are trying to show that contact records on the page. If some guy is checking 4 or 5 items and if he's clicking on delete button, it's deleting it. That's the requirement. Means you found that you are using contact records. You are going to fetch that first. Means you're going to create the same records in your test class. You try to call the independent methods, each and every methods. That's what happened. And again, for passing into multiple loops, different loops, sometimes if you're doing only one type of conditions, it only passes one type of conditions only. So if you're satisfying if loop, it goes only to the if loops. It won't go to the else loop. You have to make sure that you even you create the data for else conditions also. Okay. If you are in your class, if there is a filter saying if account revenue is greater than $2,000, means all the records which are greater than $2,000 will go to that loop. What about else loop? The revenue between 0 to 2,000 means if you are not creating the records for that scenario, it won't execute the else loop. That's the reason you can miss some code coverage. That's the reason you have to see the requirement. Accordingly, you have to create all this. Different records in your test class. That's how it works. Okay. Let's go to setup and let's try about some small topic. We'll talk about some small topic from the development today. We're done with these 3 topics. And yeah, let's talk about API today. So API is application programming interface. Okay, means generally enterprise applications talk with APIs. This full form is application programming interface. Means this is a general programming where it's means the other technologies also can use this. That's the reason we generally call as SOAP API, REST API. Okay. So currently Salesforce is supporting integrations easily because it's open platform. Anyone can integrate to any other system. So people have integrated with all the other enterprise systems and with different customers. So here Salesforce is providing different WSDLs, web service description, language, file, to show the other systems. Say this is the data in my system. If you want to integrate with my system, use this WSDL. So for suppose if you are trying to integrate with your internal system, that is SAP internal company system, then you can use enterprise WSDL. If you click on this enterprise WSDL, generate enterprise WSDL. So on what package again you want, just select generate. Now I will be generating the complete Salesforce all objects WSDL. So it says what is the object. what are the objects available and what is the fields, all this stuff to them. So means now you are trying to share the information about your complete type of data in your system to integrate with other systems to the other guy, means to the SAP developer, so that they can work on the integrations. See, this is called WSDL, Web Service Description Language File. Okay, so let's go with account. So this is the account. So the complex type name is account. This is the account type in your system. So if SAP want to store the account information of Salesforce in the system, see, Salesforce is sharing this. This is the standard thing. You can see this type of information in our system. If there's no fields which are similar to this, you create in your system, and you can store the data coming from Salesforce system to your system. That's how this is. So the properties of these fields, whether it's nullable, means whether it can be blank also sometimes or not. Nullable means blank. If that is nullable equal to true, means sometimes this field contains blank values also. If nullable is false, it means it should have a value. It will be having a value. Okay. Minimum occurs means it occurs at least 0, means it occurs at least one time. So again, if you see at the bottom, the type field says you that whether this is a string value or integer or string or double, ID, date, time, date field, all these options are given. This shows what type of field is this, so that the other system guys knows, hey, created by is a user field, means it's a string field which shows the information created by whom. Okay, so that they will map accordingly in their system also. Both enterprise systems will be having same data, so they want to maintain the same data in all the systems. That's the reason they want to be creating the same fields, same type of data in their system also. So this is Salesforce is giving WSDL to share data to other systems. Okay. So generally, for suppose if they want to create data in our system, they want to share data, then they will be sharing the WSDL file to us. We have to create the similar things in our Salesforce system also. If there are some new fields in their SAP system, that is my SAP ID, I can create one more external field, external ID field inside this. I can create some string text field in Salesforce and make it as external ID, and I'm going to map this with SAP ID. That's how I can do it. So if there are some more information like account quarterly sales, account, all this information in SAP account, I can even for storing that by seeing their external, web service description language file. If that is a string value, I can create the similar field in this, and I can access the service, and I can create some web service classes to pass the data and store in my system. So this is the enterprise WSDL. So this WSDL is generally shared to your internal applications, to share your data to the enterprise internal applications. So going back, there are different type of WSDLs. To click on API, there are different type of WSDLs. Partner WSDL. So this is a loosely typed WSDL for customers, partners, and ISVs who are building client applications for multiple organizations. Okay. So yeah, this is only for accessing the for customers who want to build integration with Salesforce organizations only. Okay, this is for partners. This is for this visual is for Apex visual. I'm not sure this is new. So if you want to generate Apex visual, click on this. I think I might be seeing the what all things required for creating the Apex class, run tests, all these options is an idea. Okay. So this terms completely comes into integration part. Okay. So and again, there's one other thing. If you have written some Apex class, so you can generate visual also by clicking on generate visual. First of all, if you have Apex class, okay. So for suppose if some third-party organization have shared visual to you, this is you are sharing visual to SAP. If other organization have shared visual to you, just choose the file, click on choose file. Okay. Then you can upload the file which they have sent. If you click on parse visual, it generally parse the visual what is shared by the team, and it automatically creates an Apex class for you. Okay, to read that web service description language file. So then it's Salesforce is making very simpler to create Apex class automatically from the visual file, so that this Apex class can now handle the data coming from that service from that system easily. Okay, this is one way you can get Apex classes from that. This point is for creating visual to other systems. Okay, from Salesforce to other systems. This is from other system to Salesforce. This option, creating the Apex class from visual. And we'll be working on email services also. What are email services? So yeah, this is an important topic. We tried sending email to the users. I haven't shown you the email coming from the code. Okay. Yeah. Remember, this is the email coming. So I think in yesterday's class I showed this demo to you. I'm trying to I created a trigger. In the trigger, I have added the messaging class code. Exactly yesterday. That is the same time 23 hours before. In the trigger only, I am giving this code. Your password is, this is the subject, and this is the account ID. Remember, this is the account name. The same thing, and this is the subject. This is your account name, all this stuff. So this message I am sending from Salesforce trigger. So this is triggering to these two email addresses. I have mapped these two email addresses in the two addresses of the messaging class. Got it? I have created a two addresses list of string and added these two values into that, and I have added these two I have added that list to mail dot set two addresses inside the type of this list. Remember that trigger on the account object? That's what I'm getting it. Okay. So here you are sending email from trigger, from Apex class or controller class to the email addresses of your customers or partners or employees. That's okay. Now, for suppose if you want to track, if I'm replying to this email, if you want to track the response, yes, I can do with email services. So we have built a form recently, for suppose the feedback type of things, for suppose if if customer want to take some data from their customers, or they generally send email to them. They will ask you to reply to that email. If they are replying to that email, we are going to store the information what they are replying in a record wise. I can even get the data into my object. I can show that requirement in tomorrow's class, in the tomorrow's first off, right? In the 11 o'clock class, I can show that requirement to you. I have a demo for that. So replying to the Salesforce email will store the data into your system. So we already shown you that. So have I shown you the email to case? Email to case, have you gone through that demo? If not, I can show that now. That email to case is already given by Salesforce, so you don't need to write any coding for that. But if you want to do email to inquiry, or email to sample request, any custom object, email to trainings. For suppose, if I'm sending email to my training participant, if he's replying to that, if I want to track that response in training participant notes, is a child object of training participant. Training participant notes is a child object. Whenever he is replying to my emails, I will store all the data in this child object records, so that all the emails, all the data what is replying, right, I can see in my Salesforce system directly. That's how I can do it in tomorrow's class. Any questions? Yeah, I will do one thing. I will create a user for Murli today. So email service is here. Okay. So in the previous class, we used it like sending single image. Okay, sending single email. Okay. So messaging.inbound handler is the interface, standard interface given by Salesforce to handle inbound emails. So there is a separate, again, this is also really simple, not that advanced. But the main thing here is you have to parse the email line by line, character by character, you have to parse it. First of all, you have to know the way what customer is replying. So you generally, if you don't know what customer is replying, you have to store the complete string into your system, complete body into your system. That's fine. But sometimes, if you want to accept dates, if you want to accept number or purchase amount, all these type of values, we have to ask them to submit to reply the email in a specific format. Or suppose if I will send the email saying, hey, please reply to this mail by filling the below information. For suppose if you are getting some requirements from any employer, he simply put down first name colon blank, last name colon blank, visa status colon blank, everything he will keep it blank. So so if they will ask you to reply the email, if you reply to the email, you fill all this information, you send it, yeah, they will manually see it. But if I want to show that information in my system, I can do it with Salesforce email services. I can simply work on the same requirement, how recruiters will be sending emails and how they will generally get the responses back automatically in the Salesforce system in my Salesforce instance in tomorrow's class. Okay. Yeah, that's it, guys. That's it for today. I'm going to create user for, I think you guys have already having access to the Salesforce edition which I'm teaching daily. So after finishing this complete training, we'll be working on some project. So let's try creating some complete. Let's work as a team and finish some application, and we'll try to deploy things, the app to App Exchange. We'll do it very quickly. First 1 week on complete configuration. Later on, we'll be working on the coding part, complete triggers, any VF pages, components required for that particular application. So you can't say that I will only work on the search page or like this. You can search. We can work on some new requirements that helps us to that helps you guys to like see how things will be there in the real-time project. Okay. Let's say I'm searching for Murli. I think I already have your user. Yeah, if this is right. I think this is currently, I don't know if this is active. Yeah, you are active and you can access this. What I am going to do is I am going to reset your password so that you'll get a new email on the same. Now reset your password, put on your new password. So your username is murlipatabi@gmail.com training. Okay. And your password you can set it on your. Yeah, you can even share the same thing to Sanjay as well. Okay. Sorry, Sneha.
Sure.
The username and password you can share it. So if she needs any 5-digit token, you can share it with her. Yeah. Okay, thanks guys. Let's meet in tomorrow's class. We'll be working on email services. That's also part of, like, here you are not writing any VF page. You are writing only the Apex part. So this global service will, so we have created a global service class to handle these emails coming from outside. Whenever email sending to your email, like support@youremployees.com, I'm going to track it and I'm going to save it in my case object. That's given by sales. That's given that we can configure very easily. But if I want to do things for other objects also, I can do it. So let's work on the job recruit. Hiring people will be sending emails to you. I need to track all this information coming from participants, coming from candidates. So if I have a requirement, I ask thousands of consultants to send their experience, first name, SSN number, all this stuff. Again, I have to manually fill this data in Excel sheets, but I want to do it automate. I want to do this automation with Salesforce. When I'm sending email to participants, if they're replying to that email, the data what they're sending will be sitting in my system. That's how I'll be working on tomorrow's class. I'll prepare the code.